Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a chart that really transformed my own playing. It's essentially a collection of all diatonic intervals. It looks like this. It's kind of a strange looking thing, but it helped me tremendously. And it helps with understanding harmony in a more advanced way, and it helps with intervallic guitar playing, which kind of sounds like this sometimes. And all that jazz. So let's get into this strange piece of paper, and I'll tell you what you need to know about it and how it can power your practice. Okay, so the left green column is essentially collections of intervals and notes starting from C. For example, there's CDE, CDF, there's CDG, CDA, CDB. So it's basically a collection of all combinations of intervals starting from the note C. Okay, let's skip the red column for a second because it's going to confuse you, and I'm going to explain it in very, very shortly. The next column says in each intervallic shape what the root of the chord should be, in my opinion. For example, something you probably will have an easy time understanding is if I play, for example, CFA, I'm willing to bet it's intuitive to you why I think the root note is F, because I get a chord with 1, 3, and 5 instead of some kind of C chord with an 11 and a 13, right? So basically, it's what I think the root note of the three-note melodic shape should be. The yellowish column is harmonic functions, which means which numbers I have. So for example, if I'm playing a CDE, the first one on the top corner, then I think the root note should be C, and the chord contains 1 and 9 and 3. 1 C, D is the 9, and E is the 3. And the final orange column says what the intervallic diatonic formula is, which means if I start diatonic intervals, of course, you're just counting steps in C major in this case. So if from C a second means count 2 steps, including C, 1, 2, you'll get D. And the second note, which is E in this shape, count 3 notes starting from C, and you'll get E. So that's the diatonic formula. I want to say something important about the diatonic formula because the diatonic formula stays the same. For example, if I'm playing CDE, starting on C, I can replicate this formula and do the same from D and get this. So that's the magic of diatonics. You're always staying within the key and you're just counting scale degrees, remember, not distances. Now let me get to the super tricky red column. So it says that types, we see 5 types of chords here, which is fascinating. There are only 5 types of chords you can make with 3 grand white keys. They are X9, no 5-7, X7, no 5, X no 3-7, X, and X9, no 5-7. Let me say it in a less confusing way. We have one type of chord which is 1-3-5. We have a 7th chord which is 1-3-5-7, but it does not have the 5, so I called it X7 no 5. We have another 7th chord that doesn't have the 3, so I call it X7 no 3. We have a 9 chord, but it doesn't have the 5 and 7, so I called it X9 no 5-7, and we have a 9 chord which is X9 no 3-7. The way I name these things, let me move the chart from you just for a second so you can enjoy my face. The way I name them is the following. I take the scale and I play it in thirds, and I name it 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. That's the notes in C. And that's a harmonic tree in my brain. So I'll always name a chord after its highest overtone. For example, if I name a chord X7, I mean it has everything until the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. But if it's missing, for example, a 5, my melodic shape only has this, for example, C, E, and B, then I'll call it X7 because the highest overtone is B. But I'll say no 5, X7, no 5. So that's how these complicated names come into being. So for example, X9, no 5, 7 would mean a chord that has everything all the way to 9. Of course, it has nothing beyond the 9, but it does not have the G, which is the 5, and the 7. So it would be, okay, so it's just a naming convention of what's your highest overtone and what did you miss along the way when you're breaking the scale in thirds. I hope you got that much. Let's get back to this wonderful piece of paper. Okay, so the interesting thing is there are only 5 types of chords, and because remember a chord, and this is very, very important, if you have the intervallic formula of a third and a fifth, you're going to get a major chord, but it's not a property of the intervallic formula. What I'm saying is a chord will stay C major regardless in which order you play the notes, right? You can do it this way, this way, this way. So many different ways to play C major. They don't care about the intervallic structure. The harmonic essence has something to do with what's the strongest chord you can make. And that's how I came to these conclusions. I simply I tried all the combinations for each chord. For example, I took, let's take a weird example. I took C, F, and A. And I said, okay, if you were a C chord, you would have a 1, an 11, and a 13. That's rough. If you were an F chord, you would have a 1, 3, 5. That's quite strong. And if you were an A chord, you'd have 1, 3, and 13. So the idea was to find the strongest chord I could, and the strongest chord meant that the notes are as close to the 1 in the order of 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Okay, so that's how I analyzed these chords. And then I got these 15 melodic shapes, which were really only 5 chords. And now I want to show you how I would actually practice this. This is really, really fun fretboard stuff. Let me show you. So I will demonstrate on the melodic shape called CDG. It's actually uh, the third row, CDG. And note that I've explained why I believe this is to be a chord that has a 9 and a 5, or X9, no 3, 7. And it's very useful for me to see things this way because it's very, very difficult when you're moving within multiple scales or even a single scale to do this. And then do it again in A major or in any other key. It's very tricky to move keys and to move shapes. But once I have a conceptual way of looking at it as a chord, life becomes much easier for me. Let me tell you why. So this is a C, and this is its 9, right? 1, 5, and a 9. And I know that D minor also has just a natural 5, natural 9. But E minor, I know, has a flat 9 diatonically. So I know the shape is bending according to the properties of the chord. I know it has a normal F, a normal G, 5, 9, normal A, and a flat 9 and flat 5. So I remember these chord shapes, and this pattern you see of these 7 notes repeats precisely in any scale you play it. You just have to figure out which chord you're on. For example, if I was suddenly in a weird way in A major, for example, I wanted to do the same, I know that I'm starting on this note, C sharp. I know C sharp is the tonic. I know my numbers are tonic, the 5, and the 9. So I know C sharp, that means I'm in the 3rd degree of A major. So I have a flat 9. So my point is, once I know which scale degree I am on or what chord I'm playing, see, I'm really thinking in chords, not in notes. Once I know on which chord I'm on, I know precisely how the pattern continues, and that's very helpful. So what do you do with these cool melodic shapes? Step 1 is simply find a good fingering for them, something you like, and play them like a drum pattern, I would suggest having at least an ascending pattern and a descending pattern. Okay, until it's kind of comfortable as a drum loop. Then I would learn to do them diatonically on all sets of strings, up and down. Okay, and of course on all sets. And so on. And then I would do something kind of fun and interesting. I would have if I'm in C major, these starting points, which are simply the notes of C major, and I'd move the whole melodic shape up a fourth. What does that mean? If I'm on G, up a fourth, no, G is C, and then it's F, and then it's E, and then it's B and E and A, like this. So what I'm doing is I'm placing a whole melodic shape on it in the following way. So I'll do it on G, C, F, B, and E, and I'll get this pattern. Let me do it super slowly. And then I'll try the same from A. Okay, let me insert a very musicians joke here. So if I take the shape 1, 2, 3 and move it up fourths, I get this, which is kind of just a 3-note per string scale, which I find hilarious, but guess not everybody would be laughing at that one. Okay, so that's how I do that for all melodic shapes. It's cool to skip strings if you like. For example, 1, 3, 7, I like doing this. I'm actually... Okay, so different fingerings for different shapes. You can really pick whatever's comfortable for you. Some of my students like doing 1, 3, 7 this way. Some students like doing it this way, only on 2 strings, like with a string skip. I really don't mind. I just think you have to find something that's comfortable that you love. So essentially you learn all of these. Let me show you that monster piece again. You learn all these 15 melodic shapes. I just wrote them in C, remember? And you move them diatonically. And here comes the improv-y stuff. Now, here's how I would practice it on songs. Now, this is a very tricky thing to do. What I'll be doing is I'll be selecting a melodic shape. I'll do this again on C, D, G. And what I'll be doing is just adapting my flats or sharps to a song. I've written this complicated song that I kind of like. And I'll be playing these notes all the time. Let me start higher. I'll do it from G. Just adjusting accidentals. Okay, so that's just basically staying in one place, changing accidentals. Then I'll try to move diatonically. get hopefully how this leads to improv. Okay, I could do this forever. There's a lot of different shapes to move. So let me summarize some key points here. Okay, first of all, uh, learn this chart. And if you subscribe and email me, I will most happily send it over in PDF forms you can practice. Find fingerings for all the melodic shapes and play them ascending and descending, and then learn to move them diatonically. For example, in a single major key and later in all keys. And once you're good with vertical motion with these, learn the, once you're good with horizontal, learn the vertical. Okay, it's really a transformative tool for me. I've had tons of fun practicing with this and reducing the complexity of music in general to these 5 chord types. So I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this. This is truly came from a lot of hard work. I want to credit John Damien, my wonderful teacher at Berkeley, who first showed me a chart like this in a different way of analysis. It certainly started a lot of good stuff in my life. And I just want to pass it forward and have more music created by everyone. So thanks, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.